Hello, namaste. This is Tim Halloran. I'm an astrologer here in Savannah, Georgia, and this is a weekly astrological forecast. I put these videos on YouTube once a week, and you can help support future videos by purchasing a reading from me at the link below. So it's the 19th of November, it's Wednesday, and we had a Saturn conjunct Sun yesterday, Sun conjunct Saturn. And I know this video is coming out a few days later than I like to hope to get them out. I've been super busy. I've been working on astrology day and night, trying to get these fall special charts done. And this is the collective energy that we could be feeling, especially earlier this week, is that there is a lot to do. There's so many responsibilities. We're so busy, okay? And Saturn being this cold man winter archetype, I found it considerably humorous as well as appropriate that yesterday in my hometown of Buffalo, New York, they received a record-breaking amount of snow in the United States. Okay, so old man winter moved in a little bit early, all right, and we're feeling some of these limitations, these responsibilities. I have to go to work, but I have to dig through 10 feet of snow. So if you don't live in Buffalo, don't take where you live for granted, and if you do live in Buffalo, be strong. You can handle it. You were made for this, all right? But we can sort of see that as we move through this week, there is also a light at the end of the tunnel coming. And we are wrapping up this Scorpio season now. And we have a new moon this weekend on Saturday, 7:32 a.m. Eastern Time, that is exactly on this Scorpio-Sagittarius cusp. All right, so this sun moving past this Saturn is sort of like this rite of passage, and now we're moving towards Sagittarius. And Saturn's going to move out of Scorpio at the end of 2014. And this is going to be this tremendous upliftment of the last 2.5-year period we have done that has been pretty serious, that has been involving digging very deeply into ourselves as well as our intimate relationships, getting a very clear look at our karma and resolving through all of these blockages, particularly that have to do with our desires, with our karma, with our relationship with others. So in last week's report, we talked about this Mars conjunct Pluto, Venus conjunct Saturn. We talked about desires. We talked about responsibilities and relationships. And we can sort of notice that during this Scorpio-Taurian season, because this is Scorpio season, we had the full moon in Taurus this month, that there is this theme of self versus other that is going on. And there are so many complications on the outside, so much karma, so much intimate details with other people that make everything kind of difficult to do our unique individual self. Like we all have these desires that are unique for us. And yet when we start getting involved in the outer world, when it starts coming down to paychecks and responsibilities and taking care of our family and making sure that everybody is happy, it becomes enormously complicated to balance this inner versus outer reality, all right? And this balance and this duality is ultimately resolved and transcended into with Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the mastery out of Scorpio. And I call this Sagittarius, Scorpio cusp, the cusp of mastery. It is where we move beyond good versus bad, discomfort and comfort, and we move to this very objective throne-like seat from which we can see down below the entire spectrum of nature playing out, and it's no longer good or bad, fun or not fun. It is all beauty. It is all essentially truth. It is the truth of your own nature. And by going through these somewhat difficult experiences that we've been going through this month, we are getting a better sense of our true nature. And this is the time to own up to this nature. Furthermore, because this is a new moon, it is an appropriate time to be planting a seed of intention. And so the seed of intention that we can be planting is to know thy nature, and to know your truth, and to be seated firmly within that truth. That way we can have confidence, okay? Saturn is this planet of doubt, okay? Saturn and the Sun means we can be feeling some of this self-doubt. We can be feeling rather limited and duty-bound by all of these responsibilities, and we may be having very serious and rather drab, melancholy conversations between us, our business partners. Okay, it can feel like we aren't living up to our truth right now. It can feel like our desires aren't being met right now. And so it is appropriate to be planting a seed of intention this weekend of how we want to be firmly seated in our own truth. So this Scorpio time does bring up a lot of this tension that can exist between all of the different shades of gray and all of these different colors that exist throughout the multi-spectrum existence of reality. And as we have been discovering our individual desire, okay, by taking a very clean look at our desires with the Mars conjunct Pluto last week, by having important conversation with our friends and loved ones, we can notice that there has been sort of this shifting around that happens during Scorpio season. Scorpio is this season where we notice that the chemical reaction starts speeding up and that the heat is increased and the bouncing around of molecules in with one another starts to increase faster and faster. And so we notice that things can shift suddenly, and all of a sudden we have this realization. We know a better thing about someone else. We know more about ourselves, and then there can be this movement, or it's either towards or away from each other. There can be this attraction towards things that we haven't been attracted to, and we can be repulsed by things that we haven't realized in the past. So we may notice that the seasons don't just shift very gradually. There are these sudden changes that do happen, and we call these times where there is enough forward momentum to kind of push us over the next hump and we move into the next energy. And this even happens seasonally, like in the case of Buffalo, where now it's certainly winter, and it maybe didn't just go from fall to winter gradually. All of a sudden there was tons of snow, and the snow is going to stay. Even here in Savannah, I was out here wearing sandals last week, and this week I need a hat and I need gloves, and it's cold. There is this shifting of the seasons that is taking place this week, and what happens is Scorpio energy is actually wrapping up, and this can happen quickly. Like all of these unresolved dilemmas suddenly come to the surface. All of these responsibilities are there, and we can simultaneously feel this urge to get through it, like there's light on the end of the tunnel. There's going to be some traveling I do some next month. I want to go on vacation. I want to explore. I have this interaction with more people next week, but I have all this responsibility. I have all these papers to do. I have all this stuff to do, and all of these, weird conversations with people. I've got to meet this uncle that I don't want to be around. You get the idea, okay? But the light at the end of the tunnel is coming. Tomorrow there's a Venus square to Neptune. Next week the Sun will square Neptune. Okay, there is this dream, there is this goal that is being reinvited into our life, into our consciousness. We can be more aware of this final goal and understanding of the laws of nature, of truth and love in a more present, every moment of every day like manner. And this is the movement from Scorpio to Sag, where Scorpio can be all over the place, so many things going on, and it's just very chaotic. And then we move into Sag and everything is under control. Okay? Now you don't get to Sagittarius without doing Scorpio, all right? And many people with Sun in Sagittarius, maybe particularly Mercury in Sagittarius, they may think that they know everything, but if they haven't done Scorpio, then they don't really know. This Sagittarius is this mastery that is actually coming out of all of these experiences, okay? Coming out of these hard lessons that sometimes come through the transformations of Scorpio, where we want to evolve to a new level. We don't want to remain on the same level forever. And you certainly don't get to the top level kind of representing Sagittarius, the third eye, the crown, the throne, okay? We don't get there by just imagining ourselves there. You have to work through these different levels, and we get closer and closer and closer, okay? So last weekend, Venus actually led the planets moving into Sagittarius, and we also had Neptune go direct. Neptune is going to very slowly start moving forward throughout this next month, and this is a time where we can start to see our dreams be reinvigorated. We can set new goals, we can set new dreams, and this is a time where we can start practically practicing our spirituality in a functional way in our life, okay? So we can sort of see that all of this division and bumping of heads and moving around and shifting and chemical reaction being heated up during Scorpio season is getting us somewhere. It's moving us forward. It's not the apocalypse. It's not the end of the world. There is a new, renewed sense of self coming. And this is truly what Sagittarius is about. It is about truth, self-truth, knowing who I am, okay? So divisions can happen throughout the last month. We can find ourselves splitting from friends, splitting from relationships, okay? Finding out we want to do something that we previously were just doing out of obligation and expectation. Now we're cutting cords and we're reconnecting with new ones, okay? And this is a time of planting a seed for what we want to do for ourselves. What is my truth? What is my philosophy? What is my spirituality? And how can I live it for myself? Now we can say before things start to turn really Sagittarius that the recommendation and warning here is to not go on crusades. Your truth is not the same as everybody else's truth. Your spirituality, your philosophy, it's not the same as everyone else's. You need to own it for yourself. You need to be firmly situated in yourself, okay? And what this sort of difficult week and past week has been is giving us these trials. And Saturn is this faith tester, okay? Saturn is the face of doubt, okay? But by going through these periods of having our faith tested, we have our faith renewed, okay? And faith is not this believing in a God or a spirituality that we read out of a book. This is not what real faith is. Real faith is tangible, existing, knowing of what the truth is. And we have faith in that truth through so many innumerable cycles going through that we have established that this is true. It's okay. It's like if you're blind, you rub your fingers over Braille and therefore you know the words. And just because you don't see them doesn't mean that they're not there. You know because you're feeling them, and back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that word is there. And this is what we are doing now. This is what we've done throughout the entire last month, as we've gone back and forth over my desires, my connections to other people, my intimate secrets, okay, being exposed, being blown up, hoarding them to myself. And it's just super apparent to us what is there, okay? And we can accept this, we can embrace this, because we have hopefully learned through this. And this is why you don't get to Sagittarius without doing Scorpio. Because Scorpio strips away everything in you that's not true. All of that is inauthentic, all that is bullshit, all that is superficial, it gets exposed at the roots, and hopefully it gets purged. Then you can find your truth. Then you can sit in Sagittarius and say, aha, what is all that remains and that which is unchanging and eternally true? That is my nature, okay? And this Scorpio, Sagittarius cusp means that we can find this place. Ah, this is my eternal nature. Therefore, I can be surrounded by all the duties, responsibilities, tumultuousness, and I can feel good about myself because I'm no longer doing it out of expectation, out of superficiality, out of some inauthentic belief that wasn't even originally mine. I am taking ownership of my eternal truth and I am embodying it, okay? And then down the line throughout this next month, we can see this magic start to grow and blossom from this place where we plant this seed of intention this weekend. And I do seriously recommend we use the new moon to intentionally plant a seed. I want to grow into my own magic, into my own truth, into my own wisdom. Sagittarius is wisdom, and wisdom does not come from anything but experience. You don't get wisdom from reading in a book. You can be reminded of your own wisdom through reading a book, but you cannot acquire wisdom through reading a book, okay? So this is a time period of actualizing your inherent wisdom, that which exists in you that has come through so many learning lessons. And furthermore, we may even see what lessons we have learned within the last month and how that has taken us into a greater sense of self and being more confidently embodying my soul truth. And then if we can even do it in such a way where we are not being brash and we are not crusading, we can share this truth with others simply through living it ourselves. Yes, not through converting, not through explaining or trying to deliver it to everybody else, but being situated confidently and securely in ourselves. We can let this truth be illuminated to everybody else, all right? So I'm wishing you the absolute best in setting this intention and preparing the way for Sagittarius. Yes, if all this work is getting you down, prepare a little getaway, do a little vacation, do a little retreat for a few days. And you might be surprised with what wisdom you find there within yourself if you give yourself the space and permission to objectively view it, okay? And this type of objective viewing that is very common in Sagittarius energy reveals so many of the things, so many of the little loose ends and things that were hidden beyond the stage props and the curtain, okay? that were actually in service to us, but we couldn't notice them at the time. Because all these experiences, tumultuous or not, comfortable or not, are in the service of making us evolve into our truth, that which is unchanging, okay? So we may have revealed to us how these difficulties can actually lead us into a place that is tremendously beautiful and reinvigorating, okay? And I can take a look into your own birth chart, and we can do this adventure together to see what your eternal soul truth is, and how we can best actualize this, embody this, and then give this as our gift, our selfless service to others. And once we align ourselves with this selfless service, we find ourselves being totally satisfied. Because with Sagittarius, it is not about possessing all of the wealth, it is about sharing it, all right? So much love to you and your beloveds. Namaste.